are some examples of community-based initiatives that have helped the Georgia technology sector? How can this help a consultant develop brand recognition?
Well, I think there are a number of organizations in the community that have done a great job. TechBridge being one, TAG being one, ATDC, Venture Labs here, WIT. All of the organizations have been great about trying to step up and help companies be creative in the market. And, you know, these are the organizations that are giving back to the community. You also have the Entrepreneurs Foundation of the Southeast. I know I'm on the board of most of these, so I'm prejudiced, so I'll say that up front. But I think they all are good. I think they have all given back to the community, and they have helped build the community. And that is what it's all about. You know, you got TechLinks, you got any number of good organizations that have been helpful.
Sig just mentioned several of those organizations. I was with one last night, the Microsoft SharePoint Users Group, and I'd like to say that what they want to do for a group of people, a group of technical people, besides just learn and meet folks, is they came to us and said, we want to do something for the community. We want to give back. So talking with them, they've actually they've adopted the Juvenile Justice Foundation. And they've decided that using their skill sets, they can put together a SharePoint site that makes Juvenile Justice Fund a lot more efficient. So all their back office operations, things like that. So they have a group of 100 people all using their talents to try and give back to the community to raise capacity for the Juvenile Justice Fund, which is trying to help kids. So from a community standpoint, there's a lot of people out there, like Sid said, a lot of organizations that are very well known, but there's also a lot of organizations that aren't so well known and some individuals out there that are trying to do the same thing for the community that have a huge opportunity and huge success.
SIG took all of my organizations.
Afraid that might happen.
Being one of SIG's organizations, the TAG Education Collaborative has 4 pillars to its operation, which is students, parents, teachers, and business, to connect business resources to education, to hopefully reduce the redundancy of work that's done in the community, and that's where consultants can definitely come into play to help us alleviate that. We're focusing on middle school and high school to move our Georgia's workforce in technology, engineering, mathematics, and science to hopefully grow considerably over the next couple of decades. We can't do that alone. We want to work with many others. Back when I was with Boys and Girls Clubs, we worked very closely with TechBridge, as a matter of fact, to align our organizations in a way that we were able to continue the growth in the community that we had for a number of years, and I think we may have helped TechBridge along the way too get a presence here in Atlanta. So I think that's what we're all about here. Thank you.
How important are vendor relationships for consultants? What should a company look for in a consultant-vendor relationship? John?
Well, this is clearly not in my area of expertise. I don't work with vendor relationships as consultants do on a regular basis to facilitate their resources to their clients. But I would imagine that one of the biggest things to be concerned about is back to the trust factor, being able to negotiate good pricing for all of their clients and things of that nature. But I will pass this question on to the experts. Thank you.
Yeah, what I would say is that in terms of just what to look for, I think we talked about some of the things you should look for in a partnership. Consultant standpoint, I think that what these relationships can bring, specifically with looking with some of the early stage technology companies, is a partner that has access to the leading edge technology and a partner that has the ability to accelerate product development and do things that are not possible to do maybe within your existing organization. And I think focusing on just what is unique about the technology startups and what they bring to the table, I think is really important to make these partnerships work versus really trying to have that technology startup kind of confirm, or not confirm, but conform to maybe your own internal culture or processes.
I think from a vendor standpoint and from a consulting standpoint, the vendors are still selling things. People are still, even in the down economy, somebody's trying to save 15%, somebody's trying to save 20%. So everybody's still looking for some magic bullet to help them, or at least the gunpowder to help shoot those bullets. So with that, the consultants have to be able to find those vendors with those products. An example might be for us some grant funding software. It seems to be very manual task. I'm fairly new to the nonprofit world, but the nonprofits are always looking for grants, just like people are looking for funding and VC money out in the real world. But looking for that money takes a lot of work, expertise, and time. And that is not normally the expertise and resources of a partnership against domestic violence. Their mission is to help battered families, not to go look for grant money. So with that, the vendors, all kinds of vendors, you could probably Google, grant funding and probably find 1 million hits on people trying to sell this stuff. So the vendors and the consultants really have to get together to try and produce something that is useful to the organizations, whether it be for-profit or non-for-profit, to make sure that is making their life easier and better and being able to get the results that they want. But that's what we found so far is vendors are looking to sell this thing, and they'll sell it for $200 an hour for maintenance fees. They'll sell it for $25,000 for the software package. But once it gets there, it doesn't even get unwrapped unless there's a consultant or somebody with some experience being able to produce results from that.
I agree with Mark, but I also say that, I do think the relationship between a vendor and a consultant is important, but that also is something that you have to be cautious about as a client, because you want to be sure that the consultant you got has the right technology and the right solution for the problem that you want to have solved. One of the things to come back to what John mentioned earlier about trust, you've got to be sure that the consultant is just not trying to sell the product that he's going to make the most money on, but he really is trying to find the right product to solve your problem. And while most consultants do that, occasionally you'll run into one that he's just trying to make some money, and he'll use a product that will pay him more than maybe another one would, and it might not be a good. So you just have to watch that from the client side.
What one piece of advice do you guys have for this room, for this audience here?
The one thing I think that consultants have to really consider, because my background is I deal with very early stage companies. As a consultant, you want to give the right solution and the right help, but at the same time, you've got to deliver in a way that the company can afford. To try to bill out at your standard $400 to $1,000 an hour rate for an early stage company that can barely make payroll isn't the way to help that company. I'm not saying that you have to discount your rate, but you need to come up with creative ways to help the client that you work at. You can't have all early stage companies in your portfolio or clients, because otherwise you'll never make any money. That I can tell you. But you do need to have a balance between that and looking at the early stage companies. What can you do? How can you help them? Maybe the project is a 10-hour project. Maybe you only build them for 5 or 7, something like that. You don't have to say that you have discounted, but give them a little help where you can. You can give extended payment terms or whatever. Just consider your client as you are doing it.
I think John mentioned it earlier about making sure that you understood the business, because the business usually understands more about their business than the consultant does. So I'm going to add on to that with creativity, I think curiosity is a huge item for the consultants. As we go out there and consult, we have to ask just tons of questions to find out what the end result is and what the company wants to be able to produce that. So curiosity, to me, is huge.
Okay, I will say that I would just encourage everybody to identify or to pursue alliances with technology startups. And I would say when you're looking to do that, though, to concentrate on as equally as the amount of time you spend on putting the deal together, concentrate on how the relationship is really going to deliver the kind of metrics. So not only getting in a contract and that kind of stuff, but looking at what's the buy-in I need to have throughout my organization to make this partnership work, and do I have the incentives in place to get the behavior that I want to drive those results?
Thank you. I would say, don't ever forget that the client is your boss. As you add value to them, they add value to your brand. And in a down economy, I think it is extremely important to spend the time, kind of as Sig was mentioning a second ago, maybe retooling your operation to look at what services you can possibly give to these customers, to your clients in this type of economy to help them sustain their operation and to grow in the future.